Hola.
Hola. Hola.
I can't blow it up here. Let's see. It's Illuminostic, and welcome to the Conscious Revolution live stream. This time we're going to talk about ayahuasca and DMT a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the things that I think I fixed the reverb, didn't I? By turning off the volume on the computer. Um, we're going to talk about what you can reasonably expect and some of the unreasonable level expectations that I've seen. I'm going to try to help you dispel some DMT myths that are very, very common. And although they're not harmful, I think it's good to know what little we can know about the universe that we inhabit. And I also, of course, want to talk about blockchain and crypto. I've been researching and researching and researching and researching not just crypto for the sake of profitability and financial gain, but there are a lot of elements of the technology that suggest that it could be very empowering for people at the bottom of the pyramid. And, I talk about revolution to an extent, but I don't really mean trying to flip the pyramid over because we're probably just going to end up with a broken back trying to trying to flip over such a massive and cumbersome structure. What we actually need to do is broaden the base, and in that case, the apex may drop a little bit for some time, but ultimately, um, we can build it up to the same height, hopefully with a little bit more even distribution of resources. Uh, and so, I almost failed to mention that researchers say that they have established the sweet spot for LSD dosing, which is something that most of us probably already knew. It's no secret to me, for sure. And I also want to thank some of our new patrons: Eric Powell, Rick Skunk, Carl Wester, and Jared Lynch. Some of them actually joined us quite some time ago, and I have been a little belated in giving them a shout out. So thank you guys so much for your support. By the way, guys, there are links to our PayPal, and if you'd like to join the Patreon, in the description, and I put some in the comment section as well. Um, you also are advised to join BlockFi if you are getting into crypto. You can earn interest and get loans against the crypto that you do buy, which can make investing a lot easier if you don't have a lot of money. If you can borrow some cash against the cash that you deposit. And if you take my advice, and I want to talk about this a whole bunch, for one thing, because there are a lot of guys out there that have a lot more knowledge than I do about this kind of stuff, and they all make excellent videos. And I've actually put together a playlist in the description. In my playlists, where you guys can check out some of their videos. I've spent some time kind of going through to figure out who is not taking paid endorsements and who's going to give you solid opinion. Everyone, including myself, points out that it's not financial advice; it's just opinion. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Um, But I've been taking a really hard look at blockchain, and later on we're going to talk a lot about the potential that it has to revolutionize culture and business. And it is already, and it's one of those things that, because of the environment that it is, its ecosystem, technology is something that evolves really, really, really rapidly. And the cyberspace environment that it has to um, diversify and replicate and build all of this variation and innovation is almost like the plane of imagination or consciousness. There are very little limitations, and there's a tremendous amount of room for variation and adaptation. And one of the main differences is that, you know, in the physical world we have a lot of constraints on how fast development can happen with biological systems, with cultural systems, with financial systems. But in cyberspace, all of this is happening extremely, extremely rapidly. Okay, we're back, and it's looking better, I guess. Okay, hello again, you guys. Sorry about that. I don't really know where you lost me, which is kind of problematic. I was talking about ayahuasca and its capacity to heal, and also to allow us to experiment capacities of consciousness that are beyond the normal parameters of what we are conditioned to believe are acceptable. And that's really, really important, because it's one thing to intuitively say, like, okay, well, I believe that telepathy is possible, or I believe that universal consciousness is a thing, that consciousness is an interconnected field, and that it's possible to observe from vantage points that, you know, when you're disconnected from your body. It's another thing entirely to experience this kind of stuff when you are or in a way that is provable. For example, Sir Walter Raleigh in I guess it would have been the 1700s, 1600s, really long time ago. He was talking to a shaman in South America somewhere, and he asked the shaman to tell him something that he couldn't possibly know, and the shaman informed him that his sister had died, and he was able to confirm later that his sister had indeed died, like the day before the shaman told him this. And there are accounts all over the anthropological record of shaman being able to describe, you know, the Eiffel Tower and places in China, and these people have definitely not left the jungle. And so I think that the unfortunate side effect of this reputation of having this almost preternatural power, a mystique that is unparalleled in the world, and rightfully so, I think, you know. I certainly feel like I'm a person that has experienced a tremendous amount of really weird stuff, and ayahuasca probably takes the cake. I mean, pure DMT is up there, but I think that there are two unfortunate elements. I think that it's sort of fed the fuel, or fueled the fire of misconception, that mystique that I was just talking about, and then also the industry and the profit motivation, and also ego. This is something, you know, I've been in this industry, in the ayahuasca industry, or around the ayahuasca industry, and a lot of the actors on the ayahuasca stage, and it's not just my opinion that shaman tend to be extremely egoic, which is a very unusual thing for someone that's taken a lot of psychedelics. We usually think of psychedelics as ego dissolving medicines, and while that can be true, there are a lot of elements of what happens in around a shaman, I think, that especially if he's not syncretic, meaning that he's not drawing on other traditions and other influences than just one single plant. This is just my opinion, but I've noticed that people, for example, that, you know, have studied psychology and have taken LSD, or even, you know, Wachuma, different combinations, and that have absorbed meditation practices into their regimen, tend to be much better and much less egoic. But there are a number of things that are happening that are seriously diluting the waters. They're muddying the waters, I guess. And so you know, I don't want to hang on this too much, but I do feel like it's important. So I wanted to put it out there that, I'll give you guys a very specific example, and this is really, really common. There was someone in one of my groups that was talking about how their shaman had contracted a very serious virus and had used the combo toad to cleanse himself of it in 24 hours, and that he was able to cleanse his system after testing positive, so that he tested negative and was able to fly again the next day. For one thing, if you just think about the details of this story, the testing, the combo, and the retesting within apparently a 24-hour period doesn't seem very likely. So this person got very offended when a lot of us pointed out that this is just like, no matter how well, I agree that the test could be faulty, but I also know that shaman, even the sincere, honest ones, can be wrong, and they have a tendency to oversell the medicine. They have a tendency to oversell their own abilities. No matter how genuine and well-meaning a person is, they can still be wrong. We're all human, and I think that there's an alarming tendency that I see to put people that are perceived to be shaman on a pedestal and to sort of revere them. I also have noticed that there are a lot of misconceptions about what is traditional, and people are really valuing the idea of experiencing a traditional ceremony. And as a person that has been studying this for decades, I can tell you with absolute certainty that there's no such thing in almost all of the ayahuasca drinking tribes in the upper Amazon basin as a collective traditional ceremony. That's not how this worked. And almost 100% of the practices, the traditional practices, only the shaman consumed ayahuasca. So, I see this all the time in my groups. People say, yeah, he's practicing the same way that they have for 5,000 years and eating a diet of white rice and chicken that weren't in South America 5,000 years ago. So, I advocate respect for tradition. But what that actually means is not to laugh at someone when they tell you some ridiculous superstitious story, to try to see the value in it in terms of metaphor, or, we're confusing, I think, respect with just adopting beliefs that might not be appropriate for our own culture. And I think that the tendency to revert, for people to just adopt what they perceive to be indigenous beliefs, and thinking that that is their duty out of respect for tradition, I think that's a mistake. I think that what we need to be doing as a community of psychonauts, as a community of spiritual seekers, as a community of people looking to heal or to be healed, is to syncretize, to draw in those things that serve us, and to have the discretion and the knowledge and the education and the objectivity to make accurate determinations about what is appropriate for us to absorb into our practices, into our ontological disposition, and we're not trying to revert to well, revert is definitely not a good way to put it, but I mean, we're not trying to move backwards. We're trying to move forwards, and integration of these beliefs and understanding them in a context that's appropriate for our being and our purposes is good. Humility, patience, and empathy, yeah, absolutely, but even more, or at least as much, discernment and temporal awareness, like really maintaining, having respect for our own. I think let me put it this way: having come from not one of the most destructive, vapid, empty cultures in the history of mankind, I think there's a very strong tendency for modern people to have absolutely no respect for our methods. and our the modern outlook, or however you want to put it, white man ontology. You know, that's not really appropriate, but you know what I mean. That's how it's perceived. Um, and I don't think that's really correct. I think that, you know, I say this about LSD a lot, that um, a lot of people, you know, I get asked this a lot. Uh, a lot of people perceive LSD as something that is like toxic and damaging, and just because it's manufactured by a person, which isn't even entirely true in the case of LSD, it's a semi-synthetic substance. And you know, my perspective on it is that it's extremely non-toxic. It is extremely efficacious for a tremendous number of applications, um, and it is actually a union of the ancient plant-based or fungus-based healing methods, methods of self-development, and modern technology. And I think that that is where we need to go. We need to constrain the demon of technology and make it serve us once again, rather than the other way around, which is, I think, what has happened to a large extent. And it's really unfortunate. So before we get off of this topic, I wanted to mention, the DMT myths. I didn't mention this stuff, but I just want to put it out there because I see this all the time in the psychedelic groups on Facebook. DMT is not released by your pineal gland, or at least it's not proven to be. It is not released when you're born. It's not released when you die. And there is 0.00034 micrograms per kilogram in the human body. And so for a 150-pound person, that's 0.051 grams in the entire body at any given time. So there is never going to be enough to cause any kind of psychedelic effect. Holotropic breathing. I might have mentioned this in the last live stream, but you just see it so much. You know, there. All that happened there is that Rick Strassman, who wrote The Spirit Molecule, was conjecturing about, you know, what he thought the function of DMT might be in the body, and somehow this turned into, you know, what appears to me to be millions of people believing that it is proven by research methods to be manufactured in the pineal gland, and that it has these functions during REM sleep, and that it's released when you're born and when you die, and there's absolutely no evidence to support any of that. Doesn't mean it's not true, but there's no evidence for it. So, okay, so what I was saying about psychology, I just saw that there was a new study that was concluded, and in the overwhelming majority of patients, the sweet spot for LSD dosage is 200 micrograms. Anything less than that is will not, between 100 and 200. Below 100, they said that this oceanic expansiveness that tends to result in ego dissolution and seems to be the primary trigger, or the space that facilitates the therapeutic effects of LSD, are not as accessible. So between 100 and 200 is the sweet spot. So I just looked at this title too, and I realized that, you know, it says best year of your life and turning point of the world 2021. That is no guarantee, of course. That is something that depends on each and every one of us, and the degree to which we're willing to take responsibility for maximizing our gains from the opportunities that we're being presented with. Almost every live stream, I probably say that the Chinese character for danger and opportunity, or for crisis, are the Chinese characters for danger and opportunity combined. And I think that that is a very apt description of what is happening right now. And so I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about blockchain and the potential for crypto to change all of our lives, and especially monetarily. And I just really feel like that's something that, you know, at least historically, I think it's a lot better with the younger generations. But as far as historical precedents go, the spiritual community, the psychedelic community, we always are undervaluing the material. And there's even this, you know, whether you're talking about the old school Gnostics or the Buddhists, there's this feeling of the material as antithetical to spirituality, that it is the demiurgos trapping us, or that it is somehow like a personal failure to value personal gain. And I think that that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the best people that I know would not be able to express the depth of their hearts and the best part of their beings if they didn't have enough money to facilitate that. So, you know, I think that whether we like it or not, to a very strong extent, our capacity to affect change is dictated by how much money we have. And so, for me right now, you know, I was going to mention this earlier, but I don't know if we're going into the jungle for a while anymore. For one thing, all of our gear is going crazy. We need to upgrade all of this stuff. We just discovered that our son has enamel hypoplasia, which means that, you know, we have to put a bunch of money into his teeth. So, you know, it's money can be extremely limiting, and I think that we are in a position where not only is there an unprecedented potential to make relatively small investments. I mean, it's just yesterday I watched a coin that was what is 10,000% like it came out to be $40. You know what I mean? So what is that, 0.04 cents, I think, or even less? So if you had put $1 in this coin that morning, by the close of the business day, that coin had done almost 11,000%. You would have $11,000 from a $1 investment. And this isn't that uncommon right now. And so for me, the primary factors that I am evaluating when I look at this stuff is, you know, like Bitcoin, for example, way too much energy usage. So I have put no money in Bitcoin. I'm not going to put money in Bitcoin. Until they find a way to address that, I'm just not going to do it. But there's XRP, the Ripple coin, which is very forward thinking. One of the things that I like so much about this industry is that one of the main marketing concerns, or one of the main mechanisms of competition is ethics. Like when you go to the different coins and you look in their communities. Yeah, I disagree, Fernando. You just have to know which ones. It's not going to just, I mean, yeah, they are still very volatile, but that's a rule of the universe. And anyways, I said it's not advice, it's only opinion. I am not a financial advisor. But, you know, it's not something that is going to go away. And the people that have been the detractors that have said, you know, this is a fad, or I heard somebody comparing it to a Ponzi scheme the other day, or saying, you know, you should be afraid, it's not that safe. Major financial institutions and governments have started creating their own digital currencies. If that doesn't tell you what you need to know, I mean, I guess there's nothing I could say. You know what I mean? Like, once you see that happening, then you know this is not some trend that is going to suck up all of your money and disappear with it. Yeah, I mean, I would put, you know, it depends on how much money you have, I guess, but I think if here's the thing. This is not going to be a situation where there are 10,000x opportunities in a single day for much longer. it might last another year, it might last another 5 years, that there's still like 1000x over an entire year. But if you're in the kind of position where I am, where it's kind of like make or break, an all or nothing kind of scenario, to put a relatively risky amount into a really, really surefire crypto like Ethereum right now, I mean, you have a hard time finding any expert in the crypto field that is not 100%, 1000% confident about Ethereum. And Cardano is kind of the same, in the same bag. Ripple is also one of the front runners, and I like them because they're very forward thinking, and the platform and community seems to be intent on creating a lot of positive change, and that is all stuff that I dig. Um, so then another aspect of this that helps to minimize the risk that Fernando is talking about is blockchain-based businesses, and this is what really hit me last night. The decentralized model for business, obviously there are some flaws with it, just like with any other model. But I'll just give you the example that caused this revelation for me. I was watching a documentary about the scooters and the company Bird that started leaving them everywhere, and apparently a lot of municipalities got pissed off, which, by the way, I don't think had anything to do with people's safety. I think it has everything to do with pressure from the oil companies and from car companies, insurance companies. These kind of like electric technologies that provide, like, especially when it becomes trendy and you're costing the entrenched elite a shit ton of money. I think a lot of that backlash was actually coming from within those industries, not necessarily inspired by anything problematic about the product. But there are a lot of levels to this. For one thing, I'm always talking about how you can use an understanding of natural law and the systems of nature to make powerful systems. And this guy in the documentary was explaining blockchain, and he said, you're eliminating, you don't have a board of directors, you don't have a CEO, you don't have a CFO. And we're talking about within the blockchain protocol, if that is, the entire business is code based. So you have no more room for human error. You have no ability to deviate from the protocol. You have no fraud. You have no misappropriation of funds. You have code, and the efficiency of the businesses that are running on this blockchain technology is going to be so much more streamlined than the previous models. And beyond that, where we do have human engagement with these businesses, or where we rely on human actors to facilitate some, very few chances for corruption. And also, I'll get to the ethical and moral part of management in a second, but even in terms of, like, when you're relying on an employee who may be in top shape today, but he's hungover tomorrow. He likes his job today, but he hates his job tomorrow. This company, basically, you just get on an app, you want to work, and it's like in construction, they call it piecework, where how much tile you lay, for example, determines how much you get paid. So in this case, how many scooters people collect and charge determines how much they get paid. So you work when you want to work, when you feel like working. And under those conditions, your productivity is going to be much higher. I have health problems that would make it nearly impossible for me to adhere to a consistent schedule. Some days I just simply wouldn't be able to do it. So I would either get fired, or I would compromise productivity at the company that I was working for. In this case, you have people. Yeah, well, scooters laying around everywhere being obnoxious has got nothing on smog and ozone holes and fucking oil companies blowing up entire countries. You know, I mean, I watched, you know, Karen Fascista and a bunch of other idiot conservative white people sitting around complaining about the scooters. I mean, I understand nothing's perfect. You know, I'm not lumping you into that category, but these people were particularly obnoxious. And it was part of the documentary. They went in and they talked to these people that were just like viciously angry about this company's scooters endangering people. And I mean, at the end of the day, none of it made sense because cars kill people. You know, I mean, it's the same bullshit argument about that. Look, the government is never regulating because they want to protect you. That's never what's happening. That's never, ever, 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 ever what's happening. Except in the cases where maybe they've been sued for something, right? If they're liable, maybe they're going to enact some kind of regulation in order to protect you. But it's really not ever about that. They're protecting industry. And so I think a lot of the demonization of this scooter situation is just that, as I was saying earlier. I mean, and to the company's credit, they are increasingly, you know, they're always actively engaging with municipalities in order to figure out how to improve the program and not have people just, you know, throwing scooters in the middle of the sidewalk and leaving them there. But, you know, with unemployment rate skyrocketing, I'm sure people that are voluntarily interested in going around and getting paid to pick up scooters. I mean, this guy said he was making $420 a day, working when he wants, you know. But anyways, my point is just that when you, I think the yo, having a happier workforce, a more voluntary workforce, this feeling of being forced even can instigate a sort of rebellious attitude in people. So I think that when things are decentralized and people are making their own decisions, they're choosing to work, they're choosing to come to work. There are just so many levels of benefit. So with the blockchain model, you have, you know, these simulations of natural law, which are what the best structures are. I mean, all structures are built upon them, but, you know, the closer you come to precisely replicating them, the more powerful your system is going to be. And so blockchain is like DNA and in its information management and distribution. And so it's going to be incredibly good at it. And on the biggest level possible, what I realized last night about this is that blockchain is actually simulating the physical universe in cyberspace to a degree that has never been achieved by any system before. Because, you know, and what triggered this is when the guy in the documentary said, you know, once you have created the code and you have set the process moving, that's it. And I thought, well, gee, that sounds familiar. You know, and the way I understand the universe is that, you know, once the natural laws were configured such as they are, the whole thing just has to play out without any change, variation, or violation of those fundamental rules and laws. And, you know, then once the energy, sort of all the possibilities have been consumed, the whole thing kind of dissolves and collapses and starts over in another singularity, right? So it's just an incredible thing. And the room for innovation and development and the speed at which it can happen, this, I think, it's not really conceivable to us how at this juncture, you know, how rapidly and to the extent that all of this is going to cause changes. And yeah, well, I don't know if you know about Crowley's 2 equals 0, and I like that one because it's like the division of the original nothing, right? It was never one thing, unless you consider nothing one thing. That's the origin of the paradox. I should cash out. DeFi I'm using. I don't know what you mean by Cash App even. Uh, yeah. Well, 2 = 0 is, he said, it explains the universe, and it's basically the idea that um, when nothing divides, it becomes two things. I guess. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, but interestingly, the what you're saying about 1 = 0 is that would be like the phase before creation, I guess, or that's how I would understand it. Because the paradox is that the only way to have one thing would be to have nothing. Because as soon as you have a thing and you have space, then you have two things. Oh yeah, PayPal and Zelle. I thought that's what you meant, but PayPal and actually, if you scroll up to the top of the comments, I did put it in there. And we're definitely trying to raise money. So please, you guys, if you want to support the yeah, Zelle I use with the bank. If you want to support us, there are links, or there's a referral link to BlockFi if you're interested in crypto, and you should be. I think, I'll give you guys, not advice, again, this is just opinion, but one of the ideas that I had the other day, because what's happening is that, all of this room for innovation and the explosion of variation within the crypto and the blockchain industry, it's insane. The other day because so right now, if you invest in Ethereum, or you invest in Cardano or Ripple or something, the likelihood is that you might actually see 100x pretty rapidly, or even 1000x, and it's possible that something crazy could happen, and one of them could just blow the fuck up, like to 50,000. Oh man, I almost missed this. By the way, you guys, if you're hesitating about putting money into Ethereum and any other coin that's ported to Ethereum, yesterday I realized that Bitcoin is valued around 56,000, and it is doing 300,000+ transactions a day. Ethereum is I think around 1,800 right now, and they're doing 1 million transactions a day. And so and then if you compare their market caps and just follow your logic through, you will realize that it is definitely a good idea to put money in Ethereum. It's pretty much 100% certainty that it is undervalued, like incredibly undervalued, and it's pretty much unanimous that it's going to explode. So, and that, you guys, that's the fuel to our fire. I mean, what we need is for the opposite paradigm to emerge from the rubble and the ashes of well, that's what I'm saying. And I think what I'm saying, Fernando, is that not only is it true that Ethereum is the coin of the future, but it has already surpassed Bitcoin in actual value, and it's just it's taking the market a second to catch up. Yeah, and that's another thing. Fernando's talking about how basically there are a lot of events, is the way that they speak about this in the cryptoverse. There are a lot of events on the horizon for Ethereum that will not necessarily affect the price until the event horizon, until potentiality meets actuality, and then there's an actual reaction, and that will cause the price to skyrocket. And so what I'm seeing is that the psychedelic culture, I mean, at this point, we know that the psychedelics catalyze neurogenesis and enhance neuroplasticity, and that people that take them tend to heal a lot of traumas, and it is basically traumas that cause the aberrations that lead to selfishness, that lead to greed, that lead to a lack of empathy. These are all neurological aberrations or chemical imbalances that we have for the last 100 years or so treated chemically, but not. Um, and this is where things get a little bit paradoxical, and I think it's part of the reason that in the areas where, or with the people that psychedelics are having a hard time getting traction, it sounds like we're really just offering more of the same that hasn't worked. Because I just caught myself saying with the pharmaceuticals, we've just been taking these chemicals that and it's almost the same thing, but it's not, because the chemicals that we have been engineering in big pharma have fundamentally different mechanisms of action, and it's definitely to some degree a matter of subjective interpretation for me to say that the well, it's not actually. It's just something that is biochemically substantiated. That studies have we understand how it works at this point. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a different mechanism of action. It's not the chemical um, just negating the effects of trauma. It is a chemical key that's putting us in a state where we have the capacity to re-engineer our consciousness. So yes, we are still talking about using chemicals to treat, to heal, but the fundamental mechanism of action is totally different. And we're with psychedelics, you're able to go to the core of the traumas and the issues, and actually, aside from what's happening consciously, when you have an ayahuasca experience and you're vomiting up all of these at the thought of certain traumas, you'll vomit and you can see the blackness that represents that damage leaving your body. Um, so aside from the therapeutic value of the whatever it is, the universal consciousness, the plant spirits, however you want to think about it, the therapeutic experience is happening in the conscious mind. We're actually engineering biophysical changes in the brain that are lasting and that actually resolve these things that the pharmaceutical technologies only were um, numbing or sort of keeping, they're abating them without any resolution, and that obviously doesn't work. I mean, SSRIs, an overwhelmingly high percentage of the mass shooters were on SSRIs at the time of their crimes, and I mean, that is an indication that these people already had mental issues, but it is also a very strong indication that these modern medications either are exacerbating existing problems, but definitely are not doing much to curtail sociological impact. I mean, that's absolutely for certain. And I actually know people in the plant medicine industry now that were in big pharma. And one of them told me that he left because he realized that they had no interest in cures, like consciously. They're not looking to cure anyone of anything. They're looking for symptom maintenance that you must continue. And if you stop at any time the medication, the issues will resume. That's what the pharmaceuticals companies are interested in, because that's what facilitates their continued profit. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is something that I talk about a lot, but I think the naivety that is required of people to believe in the political system in the United States and most of the rest of the world, and definitely in the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, it's pretty incredible. Um, I try to make no judgments one way or the other, but there is a formula that Big Pharma uses to determine whether or not to release a medication, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that, whether the medication is efficacious, whether it's safe. What it has to do with is a risk versus benefit ratio. And so they know, based on their precedent of legal cases from being sued in the past. I mean, what is it, Merck, I think, or oh no, what's the other really big one, the pharmaceutical company? Anyways, one of the two giants, it's not Merck, it's the other one, has $2 billion in outstanding lawsuits or something, you know. And so what they do is they look at the, first of all, a medication doesn't have to be, it can be less efficacious than a placebo and still go on to the next round, but it can't be more than like 10% less efficacious than the placebo. It's like 30% for the placebo, or 40% or something, and then, you know, it has to be 30% that it shows some sort of measurable. So it's like 10% less it has to show in you know, in curing or treating, right? Which is baffling. But then when they look at side effects and damage, they compare that to the projected number of consumers, and then they figure this percentage is going to have some kind of adverse reaction up to and including death, and of that percentage, this percentage will connect it to the medication, this percentage will take no action, and this percentage will sue us. And when they sue us, the precedent is that they will get roughly this amount of money, and then if they can, if they're confident that after all the lawsuits have been processed, if they're left over with a substantial profit, they'll go ahead and approve the medication. So, you know, I don't personally think that anti-vaxxers are completely wrong, even if vaccines in and of themselves are just efficacious and not dangerous. I don't trust anybody for not trusting the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, I don't blame anyone for not trusting the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, here's another example of you know, why we should not and cannot trust these people, and it is the fact that I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the name of this one too. But it was a conglomerate that was buying up smaller pharmaceutical companies, and then it would, because it figured out that R&D, Gil, was too expensive, and that it was more profitable to just watch for smaller companies that had developed a medication that they could market, and then buy them out, and then raise the price of the medication through the roof. Because I think that Obama's plan really facilitated this, because it meant that everyone was now insured, and so the pharmaceutical companies could charge anything, and the people, if they're covered, are going to they're going to have a way to pay it. The problem is that not all of them did. In fact, a lot of people remain without insurance, and so there was one case of a medication that was like $3 a pill or something for 20 years. You know, it had remained pretty stable, and this woman had this rare condition, and they raised the price so much that it was now $300,000 a year, which was like, you know, 10 times what she made in a year or something. And they know, the pharmaceutical company knows what these medications are for. So if it is something that's life-saving, and they raise the price that much exponentially, they know they're killing people, right? And I actually watched the other day this lawyer, super evil, super evil. He's known for representing and defending the nastiest billionaires and rich people on earth. And they actually, oh, that's what it was. He was debating Kennedy, the Kennedy with the bad voice that's against vaccines. He was debating him, why the pharmaceutical company would send Satan, basically, when they're trying to improve their PR, to debate this guy. That was mind-blowing, and says volumes about who these people really are. But he actually said, okay, this guy is an attorney for one of the biggest attorneys in the United States, well associated with all kinds of evils of the highest order. And at one point in the debate, he said, well, you can assume that anyone that's involved with a pharmaceutical company is going to have an interest in helping people. And that really struck me because, he knows he's lying through his teeth. Like, that is how shameless and blatant their capacity for deception is. But yeah, I mean, that's the most powerful way that I feel I can communicate that. The people who we are being told to trust with our lives and the lives of our children and our parents will knowingly raise a medication that people depend on to stay alive, to the point where they know they're killing people. And this is the health industry. So, psychedelics are a good alternative. Okay, so I wanted to answer some questions too before we. But I hope you guys, before we move on from this topic, I hope you understand what I'm saying. That look, there's 2 thumbs down now. Man. Well, do me a favor and hit the like button. And you guys, I know the last live stream I said why I'm leaving YouTube, and I am, but I'm transitioning. The funniest thing happened after the last one. All this drama, they're deprioritizing the channel in the algorithm because it's demonetized, and a couple of days after that, or the day after that live stream, my views on the channel went up 7,500 in a single day. They dropped right back down, but I just thought it was hilarious that, I had just done this live stream about how I'm leaving YouTube over the censorship, and I pull up my channel analytics the next day, and there's this huge spike in traffic. That was awesome. So I'm just saying, man, I really hope you guys do take action. Oh, I never told you about the weird investment strategy that I conceived of the other day. Because there are so many coins, and the likelihood of a coin that's already only fractions of a penny really depreciating in value are much, much lower than the possibility that it will increase in value. If you just take like $100 and spread it really thin across 75 coins or 50 coins or something, the probability that you'll, especially if you target the top 100, the probability that you will land one of those dollars on a coin that's going to do 10,000x in a day is actually pretty high. So, I realize that when people talk about this stuff right now, it just sounds so pie in the sky. But I know 22-year-old kids that are buying properties all over the world and stuff because they bought Bitcoin early. It's not a joke, and it's still something that's happening. So, I know the people that watch this channel are the right kind of people. And, I mean, I'm sure a lot of lives would be improved if miracles were to occur in the lives of, myself and people that watch this channel. So you just, you have to remember, if you have self-doubt, if you are uncertain, you just have to remember that success is only a matter of making quantitative and qualitative judgments and fulfilling conditions. That's it. It's got nothing to do with you personally. So just remember that objectivity. Do a little bit of research. I mean, the basic skills that are required to read the candlesticks, to look at the charts and figure out what's about to happen with an investment is really not that difficult. And and if you need help, you can always summon me up, and I'll do my best. But I'm nearly 100% that if you put $1,000 in Ethereum or Cardano or Litecoin or XRP right now, you're not going to be in any violation of conscious person ethics, and you're not going to regret it either. Okay, so long hair helping with intuition and spiritual connection. I definitely feel less connected to that sort of thing when I've cut my hair in the past, but I also have to acknowledge that that could be psychological. Um, because I feel more like a normie with short hair, right? And also when I'm feeling like very confident and full of fire and brimstone and thunder and lightning, uh, and I'm like at the tail end of a mushroom trip or something. I go look in the mirror and I have this glorious mane, and I'm all vibrant, and I definitely feel like that's more inspiring to me. And so I don't know, but I would say that when you see uh, um, beliefs uh, develop or when they exist independently, and there's no when it's a disparate culture. So in the Bible you have the Samson guy, right? He has long hair, cuts it off, he loses his power. But then you also have the American Indian trackers uh, that would say the same thing. um, it's not really common for most, I think, spiritual tribal people. I mean, they didn't really have scissors laying around or razors, I guess. But I think that's just a very difficult thing to ascertain objectively. But I certainly feel more connected to that realm of things when my hair is long. And I think that the fact that this idea that it has some connection. Also, we think about women and intuition. Like they're more um, like intuitively linked up, and they tend to have long hair traditionally. So maybe. Um, another thing along those lines that I wanted to mention is that one of you guys asked me a little while ago how I deal with getting lumped in with New Agers when I talk about metaphysical things, and um, I don't like that. But I'm bald. um, yeah, I don't like that really. But what we have to remember is that nobody's wrong about everything, and that the New Age thing is basically syncretic. They absorb uh, ideas from all kinds of different systems. They usually will distort and abuse and misappropriate ideas from physics and science. Somebody pointed out in one of my groups the other day, I think it's actually the person that this question came from, uh, that whenever people try to use science to validate mystical woo, it's always a disaster. And I don't think that that's true. I think it is true, but it's not because it's a bad practice. It's because people generally are just not really mystics. They're not really metaphysicians. I think that because our culture has for so long undervalued the role of the mystic and the philosopher and even the magician or the shaman, that people kind of feel entitled to just decide all of a sudden that they are um, capable of interpretation and um, it's Galen Kruger in the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world where nobody's really sure about anything, and there are no protocols, and there's no outside of the mystery schools, there's no system of like degrees or whatever. You don't get promoted. We don't really have, aside from the mystery schools, we have no schools. So somebody just decides that they're qualified to figure all this stuff out, and they almost never are. So I do think absolutely that you can make observations of the physical world that tell you about things that may not be as directly observable. But the trick is that you have to maintain a state of flux and not be overconfident and not It's like I feel like I never know anything. It's just that some things are very probable. You know, the things are very likely. Um, People definitely, you know, the slit experiment. Um, People have used that to imply that consciousness has some kind of function in the subatomic world. That experiment absolutely confirms it, and it absolutely does not. It just doesn't at all. And I actually posted a video in my Conscious Revolution group today about that. That it's just not true, and it might be true to some very, very, very minute extent. But again, this is like something that, you know, there are $1 million empires that have been built on this idea that you can manifest whatever you want because your consciousness has some kind of fundamental function in the subatomic world, and there's actually very, 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 very little evidence to support that. And although some very, 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 very early physicists did believe that, almost none of them do now. And you know, I don't believe there's no truth to it. I do think that it's quite likely that our consciousness is the fundamental particle. Um, but you know, it's definitely a very, very common and very, very unfortunate thing that the practice of correlating the physical and the non-physical has been abused by so many unscrupulous or well-meaning but undertrained metaphysicians, I guess would be a good word. What do I think of Cardano? I like Cardano a lot, and I think that that's one of the, you know, I'm gonna put $1,000 in it, and I think that you know, the most reputable uh, um, the experts, you know, the crypto guys that you can find, they're all pretty much in agreement that $1,000 in Cardano right now could make you a millionaire within 5 to 10 years. And some of them have even more optimistic views of what could happen. And you guys have to remember that when Bitcoin first came out, um, even the enthusiasts did not predict what's happening. They were all, you know, it's like ayahuasca. It's like one of those few times where something is very, very likely to exceed your expectations, you know. Um, and it's an equal opportunity scenario. It's I do kind of believe or suspect very strongly that the universe is sort of fundamentally conscious, or you could take all the woo out of it. Not that that's woo necessarily, but even if you just think of it as a sort of equation built on symmetry, um, it's like, well, no, it does require some intelligence. So I guess I'll just go ahead and say that at the risk of, you know, whatever level of ridicule I might be in store for. But yeah, I do think that, I guess. And if it's true, let me put it that way. If it's true that there is some kind of consciousness inextricably intertwined in the fabric of the universe, I think that it is, as Terence McKenna suspected, building upon novelty using symmetry. And I added the using symmetry part, but building upon novelty. So it's not like it's good and all loving the way that the old fairy tale religions describe their concept of God. It is equally invested in negative experiences. If anything, it just wants to create all different types of experiences from all different possibilities and fulfill them all, and experience as much of itself as it can from all of these different perspectives. That's its path to self-knowledge, and our role in that is to be sort of like a sensory organ. And I think that the current powers, the elite, the entrenched elite, whatever you want to call them, the captains of industry, the robber barons of the modern era, they have pushed us so close to the brink of destruction that the universal mind is creating avenues to empower the people that will set the balance back. And you don't even have to believe in woo. There is the law of well, the equation is called the I'm going to remember it this time. The logistical map. there's an equation called the logistical map. If you guys haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's an incredible thing to understand, and I think it's very important to understand. Also, the physicist Fritjof Capra, who wrote a wonderful book called The Tao of Physics, he said that to understand life is to understand patterns. And so all systems tend towards homeostasis, right? And so if the planet has gone out of balance, there are forces, just forces of physics, tendencies in nature that are pushing it back into homeostasis. And I think that one of the reasons that people can have a hard time with metaphysics is that they have a hard time understanding that these laws govern all systems, including non-physical systems, right? So, and it's actually not that hard to understand. It's actually incredible that people are sort of in denial about it, because what we're basically talking about is some invisible rules that are governing physical stuff. You know, and then when I say that the same laws that govern physical things govern non-physical things, people, you know, mainstream people would scoff. It's the exact same thing. It's just reverse. You know, these invisible laws governing physical things. It's not woo at all, really. So what I'm saying is that the advent of decentralized technology, blockchain technology, the dramatic increase in interest in psychedelics, this is all happening at this time because the system is tending towards homeostasis, because that's what systems do naturally. And the systems created by mankind, or even technology, nothing escapes the jurisprudence of natural law. Nothing. And so what I'm saying is that this opportunity for the most intelligent people, for the most adaptable people, the people that are inspired enough to want to empower themselves and to want to empower others, the opportunities to resolve all of our internal contradictions with the tools that have been given to us, and then to empower ourselves financially so that we have the freedom to empower other people of like mind, and, you know, just in time for the Joe Bidens and the Jeff Bezoses and the whoever else, or the Rothschilds and all these fucking people are on their way out, you know. And so the third eye pride contingency is being primed to take the reins. That's really honestly what I think. And so it took me an extremely long time to get to the point. I guess it's been over an hour, I think. But when I was saying the best year of your life and a turning point for the world in 2021, it's not clickbait. It's true. But the thing is, we have to take responsibility and actually do these things, you know. And it's not just blockchain, and it's not just crypto. Investing in the psilocybin companies, investing in green technology companies, the fusion company that is backed by Bezos and Gates. You know, I don't like their backers, but I do know that zero waste energy for the entire planet sounds like a good idea. And I also know that if you guys buy the pre-IPO stocks, you're going to make a fuck ton of money. And what we need in order to accrue power as conscious people is to set our wallets on fire. Not literally, but figuratively. Okay, you guys have any more questions? I'm trying to think. I just could have sworn there was something that somebody asked me last week that I didn't get to. Oh, by the way, do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe. There's links to my other channel. If you guys are creators, I would encourage you to come over. It's a opportunity to earn Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, but crypto, just for watching videos. There's a link in the description. My other channel is there. Also, I wanted to tell you guys, I almost forgot about this. No, I never mentioned where to buy the pre-IPO stock, and I did, Michael, look for that article again, and I was unable to find it. So I'll look again. Maybe just try Googling, find the company first, and then put the company name in with pre-IPO stock. It is Commonwealth Energy. That much I can remember. Commonwealth Energy. But that's going to be a brilliant move for sure. I just remembered something and then I lost it again. Oh, should I link it to YouTube? Yes. You mean if you go to the crypto platform? Commonwealth Fusion. There you go. Commonwealth Fusion. Yep, that's it. That's it. Pre-IPO stock is available, but only through one broker. And that's going to be a good move. Another thing I wanted to mention is that for those of us that don't have a bunch of money to throw at crypto, there are airdrops. What you guys, I know I had trouble finding the article too, Michael. I looked and I'll check again, and if I find it, maybe I don't know. It's too bad you can't message people on YouTube anymore because that was convenient. But anyways, there are airdrops, and there are different ways that you can earn free crypto. So I just wanted to mention to those of you that might not have any money to buy crypto, if you just get involved with these communities and usually all that's required is your email, and you might be required to make a purchase, but oftentimes you can buy a fraction of a coin, and that's enough. And then they will just airdrop coins into your wallet as promotional stunts. And a couple of these airdrops that happened just a few years ago are now worth $50,000. A couple of them actually airdropped multiple coins, and now those people received over $1 million for free. This is something that's actually happening. I know it sounds like some insane fantasy, but it's actually happening out there. And there are a few things that make me happier than seeing people that are coming from a good place and deserving and creative and conscious revolution types being empowered, and to watch the kind of people that used to be. This is like a meek inheriting the earth kind of scenario if we play our cards right. And it's not that hard. It's not even that hard. We know which companies and which coins right now are the ones that are going to do it for us. Okay, yeah, we can, what is this? Yeah, Michael, but you got to put the comment down here in this section, which you can't do until after the video, but yeah, for sure. Meditation alone can create spiritual telekinetic links with other people near or far. Absolutely. I don't even think you need to meditate. I think that I don't know why it is that some people seem more predisposed to experiences of telepathy and precognition than others. It's probably just a matter of, there's so many potential influences, I think, that can come into play, especially when we're talking about these sort of like subtle layers of the consciousness interaction. But I've experienced telepathy at its most clear, I guess, and undeniable. Definitely in psychedelic states, particularly with ayahuasca, but also the next day. But also I've had these experiences. In fact, one of the most profound, we had been microdosing mushrooms, but I don't know that counts as anything. And my girlfriend at the time knew every single word of every single thought that had gone through my head for like a 30-minute period. And also what I had been looking at, what type of dog I had interacted with. There's absolutely no question that it was legitimate telepathy. And then with my current partner, I would, when we were separated for a while, I would think, I wonder what she thinks about marriage. And mind you, we had not even kissed yet. It's not like this was like at a stage in our relationship where it would be appropriate to be thinking about this stuff. And I got a message like a minute later saying, well, I suddenly feel different about marriage than I used to. Um, that happened over and over and over again. And so I absolutely do think that if you are trying to facilitate an increased capacity for telepathy, for precognition, for even just a connection with intuition. And also remember that I don't necessarily think that we need to relegate this stuff to the dustbins of woo, because as Maynard James Keenan from Tool said, when asked about his own apparent precognition, the Fear Inoculum album that they just released, the title track was about a pandemic, and also the fear that had created the disease and the conditions around the disease. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that the how succinct the material on this album is relative to what happened a few months later. And he said that there's the subconscious mind is always processing these repetitious patterns that create the reality that we experience. And I embellished upon that a little bit. And he just said, there are patterns that you can perceive, and then the subconscious mind will, whatever. But that's the gist of it. And so, there are ways to explain this kind of phenomena without, believing that telepathy is a matter of like angels whispering in your ear or something like that. I think it can all be understood without having to invoke any kind of supernatural agency. That's another thing. Earlier I mentioned a guy that he didn't seem to like that I was sort of using science in a way that as a like metaphysical tool, I guess, or equating the two. And one of the comments that he made was that these non-physical things or spiritual things and the visible spectrum, right? Electromagnetic frequencies. And what I was saying is it's not, when you're perceiving even a spiritual phenomenon, the mechanisms of manifestation for something like a spirit are still just consciousness and energy. It's not non-physical stuff. It's not something beyond the material. It's just a normally imperceptible wavelength or wavelength of matter. It's still energy. It's still material. It's not really woo. And earlier, when I was talking about this and saying that it's unfortunate that people have abused what is actually, I think, a skill of using knowledge of the natural sciences to extrapolate metaphysical concepts. People have abused it so that it's kind of like the conspiracy theory thing. Like, there are definitely conspiracies, and a lot of what gets lumped under the heading of conspiracy theory, I think, is really just it's like it's empire management. It's not really conspiracy. It's just how a planet's managed, But there are so many absolutely stupid conspiracy theories and things that are just obviously just so dumb that they should never have even, it's like you have to wonder, does this stuff pass through the person's brain before it comes out of their mouth? Is there any connection at all? And so what happens is that anything that sounds like it might have some kind of relationship to what people think of conspiracy theories is just dismissed. And so that could actually create a circumstance where something evil sneaks up behind us and eats us, because everyone's just scoffing. I'll give you a good example of that sort of phenomena in the actual world, and it's also That's the second time. Well, at least it didn't. Was that dizzying? Gosh, twice. Oh, it's also a really good example of a very successful decentralized business model. The Grateful Dead. They were the most ridiculed band. You know, everyone said that because the fans would try to explain to people that they would take LSD and then the entire band and audience would become one mind, and you know, and I'm sure I would have laughed at them. I did laugh at them for 15 years or something. My friends in high school would try to tell me, and I was like, what the fuck ever? You guys have taken way too much acid, you know? But then I went and experienced it. And it's, you know, everyone laughed at the Grateful Dead, and they weren't that big back in the day, you know? And so now, who is the only band from that time period that is still filling football stadiums, even though their star has been dead for 30 years? Who is the only band from that period that no one laughs at anymore? You know? So, you know, I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, that when people are scoffing and, you know, it makes you unsure of yourself, I'm a pretty confident person, and I also don't really care what the mainstream perception of anything is. In fact, I think that the tendency for people to base their belief about, you know, what's happening in the world, to build their ontology based on the average. Like, you understand what average is? It means that the think about how dumb the average person is, and then remember that half of them are dumber than that. And that is how people calibrate their ontology or define it. So of course they're scoffing at people that are way smarter than them and way more advanced. And I think, you know, Gandhi said, like, first they laugh at you, then they try to kill you, and then they join you, or something like that. And so that seems irrelevant. But also the Grateful Dead is a decentralized business model. Everyone in the organization was allowed to come and vote at board meetings. A janitor once overruled a decision to sign a contract with Warner Brothers, and it was a little slower, but eventually they became the most successful touring act in the history of the world, and still to this day are extremely successful. And a lot of people don't know this, but social media actually also grew out of the Grateful Dead. The first social media site was called The Well, and it was a tape trading forum for live concerts to be exchanged among fans. And so, you know, I don't want to go on and on about it, and I've talked about it recently, and I don't want to be redundant, but it's just a great example of people laughing at the people that are, you know, 50 years ahead of them. And I think that's something that most of us are probably experiencing right now to some degree or another. Okay, well, actually, Andrew, you're saying you're thinking about tripping tonight since you're having a year and you're overwhelmed with everything happening in the world and don't want that trip to turn out bad. And then George said if something is troubling you, not to do it. George could be correct, but I don't think that's enough information to to make that call. I think that oftentimes when you are in a condition that would make it seem sketchy to take a psychedelic is exactly what you need to do to resolve the conflict or to come to terms with the dissonance. And so you know, if this is about if this isn't personal, if it's not something within your own being that is creating this conflict, and it really is trying to relate to what's happening in the world, it may actually be exactly what you need to do in order to come to terms with it. And furthermore, I could offer something that might help, and it's kind of been the general thing that I'm trying to communicate here, that there's really actually nothing wrong. That, if you didn't know what was happening when a woman went into labor, you would think it was some seriously fucking bad shit going down, right? Um, Order out of chaos, pressure to create a diamond. The transition is almost never easy. And there's really no necessity for rapid growth. There's no necessity to move into the light if you're already in the light. So I think that what's happening in the world is actually fundamentally just necessary and positive. Everything that happens is positive because it doesn't matter good or bad. We're just here for the ride. It's just an experience, and the universal mind that is experiencing everything through everything else is not concerned with the subjective evaluation of the experience, really. But I think that you just have to accept the increased level of uncertainty, the increased level of threat as necessary prerequisites to the catalyzation of evolution. And I mean, as I said, I'm not a financial advisor. This is all only opinion, but the people that have taken my advice about, mind med a few months ago, it has fallen drastically, but I did tell you guys to sell it before that happened. And to rebuy in later, I mean, 11,000% people made. And I'm telling you that I have the same confidence about Cardano and Ethereum. And also the strategy I told you about, where you just kind of disperse smaller amounts of money across a wider range because of the possibility of a 10,000x coin cropping up somewhere. I mean, you guys, you don't need to know much about investing to know that a 10,000x in 24 hours, if you told your grandfather about that, he would just laugh in your face. When I say that the potential to change your life is unprecedented, I'm not selling anything. You know what I mean? I'm not selling anything. So, you know what I mean? Like, I have no... Actually, I mean, I kind of am. If you guys are going to buy anything, you can click on my DeFi link, and I'll get, a little bit of a affiliate commission. But aside from that, it's not like I have interest in these companies or something. Okay, but here's where the empowerment goes even deeper. This is not just about filling our bank accounts. When you look at the protocols of these companies, you look at what they're doing in the world. Some of them are oriented around recalibrating the distribution of wealth, and also changing the way that information is distributed. Right now, power, information, and money, which are actually really one thing, right? And that's another reason why crypto is so powerful, because it is getting closer to the truth of that. It's combining all of that information, power, and income, or money, and making them one thing. It's like when three notes become a chord. There's a lot more power and effect from a chord than a single note. And as things are now, the pyramid structure of the economies and the where information is consolidated, these companies have as part of their agenda the redistribution of information and money and power. And so you have the ability to go through all of these companies, and it's a chain reaction. It's like there is a central blockchain, but then there are other altcoins and smaller businesses that are Yeah, Lantern of Diogenes. I don't even know how to say that. That's true. A power chord is only a root in the fifth, but the three-note chord is still more powerful. Whether you're talking about root fifth octave, which is usually how people play power chords, or you have the introduction of the third, which is what provides the emotional content, or you could think of it as like the intuitive level. So you're still having a lot more effect and information from the combination of three notes than two. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, you guys get me, and my neck is starting to hurt. So, um, did I miss a question? That's I thought. And yeah, I mean, things aren't bad. They're just changing. And I'm always talking about how universal law governs everything. That the laws that govern one system govern all systems. And the reason that nice man, it's there's a reason why musician and magician are phonetically so similar. Um, Master vibrations, guided by intent. That's super important. Um, but yeah, so order out of chaos, and pressure to create diamonds, and all that. I mean, I used to think when I was younger that I just absolutely hated the governments and the culture. I mean, I still hate the culture. Mainstream stuff is just I just cringe so deeply at all of it. Um, but what I'm getting at is these evil oppressive powers are what created the necessity for the colorful, free, extravagant, all of the things in life that made it worth it. So it's all just necessary constituent parts of a process that ultimately I think is going somewhere. I mean, it's guaranteed to be interesting. Am I a flat earther? Hell no, man. Those people tried to kill me and my whole family. I made a video about it, but I I went to. They challenged me to a debate, um, and so I came on the side of science, and I had no idea that it was a setup by um, the local right wing Christian uh, constituent, and there was like an 80-year-old woman that I brought with me, or that came to support me. It was like kind of a big event. It was like in a revival tent looking thing, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Um, and so they had this like ex Navy SEAL that kept walking up to the table while I was trying to debate the guy, and he would whisper threats. I had my newborn son right next to me, and this lady has cancer, and she's like pushing 80, and he went up to her and, "Aren't you dying from cancer? I should just fucking kill you right now," you know. And they're all like praise Jesus and like calling me, their cat calls were like Satanist and Luciferian and all of this stuff, Gosh, Christians are just so wonderful. Doesn't this story just make you just want to go to church? Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know that most of science is make believe. I mean, I think they have the same sort of selective perception problems, and they're capable of maintaining cognitive dissonance and cognitive bias just like anyone else. And I also think that because their methodology and their it's like their box is constructed for them before they get a hold of it, and so it does preclude certain types of observations, and definitely I there's no way that science is without bias. Um, so so yeah, you guys, that's it, man. 200 micrograms, just to recap, 200 micrograms is the sweet spot for LSD according to researchers at uh, Psychopharmacological Institute. Um, it's okay to be skeptical of what your shaman tells you. They're human. Uh, invest in crypto. Blockchain technology is going to revolutionize everything. Um, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Yeah, I know, man. The flat earthers. I had no idea that it was a religious motivation. I thought that they were just idiots, and then they wanted to kill me and my whole family. And we received death threats for weeks afterwards. I was attacked on all my social media accounts, um, and of course, because I was representing the anti-Christian kind of current, at least. Well, yeah, I do pretty hard. Um, they were, accusing me of being a pedophile and a child murderer. I mean, it was really, 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 really bad. And it's part of the reason that I'm not in Vilcabamba anymore. We didn't just come here to the jungle because we want to be in the jungle. I mean, I want to be in the jungle, but we also did it because there were so many of these flat Earth psychopaths down there that we it destroyed our business, a lot of our. I mean, it was absolutely a terrible, terrible experience. As I was saying, I didn't realize that it was motivated by religion. I thought they were just stupid. Okay, you guys, so invest in crypto and, oh, the conservation thing. Damn it. I can't not say something about this because I put it in the I put it in the live stream or in the description. Um, uh, we really have to take care of our shit at home, man. I know a lot of you guys are in the United States. Speaking of the Grateful Dead, the other day I saw a short interview with where he was talking about conservation, and it really actually surprised me that he was as educated on it as he was, and so articulate. And I mean, he knew about international policy and domestic policy in the United States. And one of the things that he mentioned that really got to me on a lot of levels, because Americans don't really have the best reputation globally, and I happen to live in a foreign country, and this perception in the United States that only white people are racist is definitely nonsense, by the way. And of course, it's not everyone, but it is everywhere. Uh, but the thing is, one of the things he said that was just super powerful is that we cannot be a model of exploitation and then go around and tell the rest of the world to cut it out. You know what I mean? And there's almost nothing left of the redwood forests on the West Coast, and they're still, like, there are places that I have been going to for 20, 30 years that are just amazing, magical. You can pick all the species of gourmet edible mushrooms in the world pretty much all in one spot. Just absolutely, incredible. The trunks are as big around as a house, and they're still cutting them down just to widen the road so that the military can get nukes through or whatever the hell bullshit is going on. So, I just want to encourage everybody out there to, take a look around in your own communities and in because I'm always pushing people to get involved with indigenous rights groups and to protect the Amazon rainforest. But I forget that the rest of the world is getting torn the fuck down too. So, and it's, I really want to encourage everyone to do something, to take some fraction of their time and devote it to some kind of, whether it's money, whether it's your voice, whatever the format, whatever the means of expression. I was just watching something about the Congo and how the ivory trade, man. I mean, can you imagine people are still shooting elephants? But they are, and the people that are assigned to protect the parks in the Congo, these oil companies, and this is the part that people really need to understand. Like, I get a lot of blowback because I'll bash Biden or talk about how it's not just the Republicans. Yes, I don't like the right wing. They have been like my mortal enemy since I was a child, since as long as I can remember. And as I get older and more mature, I try to think about it in like slightly more neutral way, but I'm definitely not on their side. But the more that I've watched the Democrats and the left, and I've realized that it is beyond question